Hello students, in this class we are going to discuss about photophosphorylation. In the previous classes already we discussed about the non-cyclic and cyclic electron transport. These are the events of light reaction. Simultaneously along with the non-cyclic and cyclic electron transport, this photophosphorylation also occurs. What is this photophosphorylation? Synthesis of ATP in the presence of sunlight from ADP and inorganic phosphate. ADP, adenosine diphosphate, PI represents here inorganic phosphate. From this ADP and inorganic phosphate, in the presence of sunlight, ATP synthesis occurs during the daytime, that is at the time of photosynthesis. This process is called as the photophosphorylation. This was explained by a scientist called as Peter Mitchell by proposing a theory called as a chemiosmotic theory. According to this theory and Mitchell, the main reason for the synthesis of photophosphorylation is a proton concentration gradient between two regions. Okay, the proton concentration gradient between two regions is the main cause for the synthesis of ATP when the photosynthesis is taking place. Here what are the two regions and what is gradient? Let us discuss. The two regions are stroma and lumen. Gradient is nothing but the difference. The difference in the proton concentrations between stroma and lumen is the main reason to synthesize the ATP molecules. How this difference develops means already we studied in detail about cyclic and non-cyclic. Here as the cyclic and non-cyclic electron transport is operated, the protons translocates into lumen side from stroma region. That is when quinone cycle occurs during non-cyclic and cyclic electron transport. During quinone cycle, for every one pair of electron transport, 4 protons are translocating from stroma to the lumen. So it is a continuous process. Thus, in the lumen, the proton concentration increases, and gradually in the stroma region, the proton concentration decreases. So what is concentration rule? The ions should always move from high concentrated region to low concentrated region. Like that, the protons from this lumen side tries to move into the stroma side. They tries to translocate again into the stroma side. But in between this stroma and the lumen, there is a lipoproteinous membrane called as the thylakoid membrane. This is the thylakoid membrane. It is impervious for the proton translocation. What is impervious? It doesn't allow. It doesn't allow the protons to move into the stroma region. But to maintain the ionic balance, concentration balance, the protons should move from lumen to the stroma cell. Then how they move? Means there is with the help of a protein called as ATP synthase, otherwise called as CF0 CF1 complex. This protein helps the protons to move from lumen to the stroma region. Let us see the structure of this ATP synthase. Here it has two components. One is a tail region and second is head region. The tail is called as CF0 and head is called as CF1. The tail is acting as a proton channel for the translocation of protons. That is, tail is allowing the protons from to move from lumen to the stroma side. So like this we can see that always the tail is directed towards the high ionic concentrated region. It may be chloroplast or it may be mitochondria. Always in ATP synthase, the tail region, that is CF0, is always directed towards the high concentrated region, high ionic concentrated region. Here that high concentrated region is a lumen. So it is directed towards the lumen side. And let us take the head region. The head is called CF1. It is acting as a catalytic site. For what? For the synthesis of ATP by combining ADP and inorganic phosphate. Thus, the tail is acting as a proton channel and head is acting as a catalytic site. Like this, with the help of this CF. Here CF means, remember, coupling factor. CF is nothing but the coupling factor. With the help of this coupling factor, when the protons are moving from lumen to the stroma, certain amount of energy is released. Here again, once again recall the concentration rule. When ions move from high concentrated to low concentrated region, the energy is released. But when the ions moves from low concentration to high concentrated region, the energy is gained. Here the ions are moving from high concentration to low concentration. So certain amount of energy is released. With the help of that energy in this head region, the ADP and inorganic phosphate will be combined to produce the ATP molecule. Like this, the head is acting as a catalytic site to synthesize the ATP. For 3 protons, when 3 protons are moving from the lumen to the stroma, the released energy is sufficient to synthesize 1 ATP. This is very important to attempt the numerical questions in NEET or the MCET. 3 protons energy is sufficient to synthesize 1 ATP molecule. This total is called as the photophosphorylation, which was given by Peter Mitchell through his chemiosmotic theory. Thank you.